Welcome back to the Make Life Work podcast with me, Si Jobling. On this podcast, I talk to people from around tech about how they find a balance between work, life and any side projects to share the stories, challenges and life hacks so others can learn themselves. This time round though, I'm going to try something a little different. I've joined forces with two previous guests of the podcast, Sam Hardacre and Mike Street. We are going to ask each other questions about our side projects and invite along other members of our On The Side Slack community to share their stories too. We'll also be asking the listener community for your questions that we plan to answer on the show. Without further ado, let's get into it.
And I'll say hello to Mike. How are you doing, Mike?
Hi, yeah, I'm doing all right, thanks. I'm doing all right. What about yourself?
I'm pretty good. It's been a pretty significant day, which we'll talk about later, hopefully. And we've also got Sam.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. It's good to have you both back.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
So with this new format, we're going to try and a bit more of a panel conversation, get the conversation flowing a bit more naturally between all three of us. But before we do that, do you want to explain what your current roles are, what your day job is, and what that entails? Mike, how about you? Let you go first.
So I'm a lead developer, I suppose, and director of a small web agency in Brighton on the south coast. I might add CTO to my email signature if I need to look a bit more professional when I'm emailing clients and stuff, but generally I try and steer away from it. And yeah, I just kind of day-to-day roles, just kind of run the dev team now after being promoted probably a couple of years ago now. So we've had the previous directors stepped back last April for me and a couple of other guys to fully run the company. So I've had a year of pretty much of running the development team of this agency now and stuff. So it's been interesting doing that over the various lockdowns that we've had. I think that's my role. Sam?
So I'm a sort of UX designer / developer for a small sort of financial company based in Leeds. So we sort of deal with like later life finance and things like that. It's all very super interesting stuff. I'm sure you'll agree. So we provide a sort of a web-based platform for independent financial advisors and things to you find products and things for their clients. So we're kind of like the middle people between the clients and the advisors and things like that. So we sort of design and build that platform. Yes, that's by day. By night, I draw comics and stuff, which is my focus and my sort of on the side stuff. Bring it back into the into the podcast. So, Si, what about you?
Well, interesting you say that. So by day, delivery lead, which is a very ambiguous job title, I guess. But it's effectively like a project manager, team lead sort of role in tech. And actually today I handed my notice in to change my career back into my old company as well. So that's going to be more engineering managing, less project, more people. And I don't know what it's going to be like, but obviously the next couple of months are going to be really interesting as I wrap up one role, move into another role, and I'll try to share everything as I go along. I work in tech, mostly with people, a lot of project management crap, and mix it up in that space.
Congratulations on your new job.
Yeah,
well, thank you. Yeah, it's been we're talking pre-show recording. We were chatting about it, and it's been pretty fast process as well, very weird and informal. So I'm still trying to get my head around it, but I'm looking forward to what comes. So I guess we've all done our intros, right? And this is a whole new format for the podcast. I think it's probably worth just outlining where we came from and what we're trying to get from it. So let's go back to, when was it? About November time? We started throwing some ideas down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sam, you mentioned the On The Side community. Do you want to just explain to the listeners what that community is all about?
I'll do my best.
You can try, right?
Yeah, I'll give it a go. So essentially, it's a Slack community that we run. I say that we run. That Si set up, and a few of us have kind of come on board as kind of regular users and stuff. Try and help out and try and keep the community moving. So yeah, we kind of we've got quite a mix of people. We've got designers, developers, and then we've got artists, and I think we've got writers as well, haven't we? So we've got quite a mix of different people. We've got a few regulars who are there quite a lot, posting quite regularly, including like us three and a few of the guys. And then we've got a few who kind of drop in and out as and when the schedule allows. And it's quite nice because we just have it's a space where you kind of you can talk about your current project. You can come to the group with any questions or any problems that you've got, and you get some feedback, and you can use it as a way of being accountable as well. So we have we have daily check-ins, we have weekly check-ins where if you like, I don't do it very much at the minute because of various scheduling reasons. You can kind of say, today I plan on doing this, and yesterday I got this done. So kind of like a daily stand-up kind of job. And then on a weekly basis, well, you can say, this week I plan to get this done. And then it just kind of keeps you accountable, really, because you kind of, you're saying to other people, this is what I intend to do. And not that anyone comes back and says, well, did you do it? And if not, why not? It's not like you get wrapped on the wrist for not doing it. But yeah, I think that's it in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you put it quite nicely. It's the fact that you put yourself to be accountable in what you're trying to commit to. It's something that I've seen quite a lot in tech, leadership and management, stuff like that. It's just kind of going, right, what team are we committed to do in the next couple of weeks? You've actually got stakeholders to please here, but on the side, you are your own stakeholder. So the only person that can feel bad about this is yourself, but you really shouldn't. So yeah, Mike, I mean, how have you found the community? Because it's not been really all about side projects so much over the last 6 months, has it?
No, I suppose people are actually coming to ask for sort of advice and questions on to do with their work as well, like and asked about managing team members and stuff like that, and that turned into a really helpful conversation. So it's more than just talking about side projects. It's kind of a little support community that is, I suppose that's where the name also works, is it's kind of on the side to your day-to-day work. Like there's no shame in saying, I need help managing people, or I've got this problem at work. How would anyone else deal with it? And I think the fact that Sam mentioned we've got such a wide breadth of sort of people doing different roles and jobs, then everyone has different opinions and stuff. Because like sometimes if you ask on Twitter, it's a little bit of an echo chamber, because you tend to like follow people and people follow you that are very like-minded, so you're all going to have similar views. So to have someone who's working in kind of a big named brand, I don't know if we're naming our companies, but compared to me who's like a little agency, like it's great to have that kind of contrast.
True. And the other thing I think I've noticed over the last year really is it started off as a side project community, but actually it's just a family. It's like a little community where we can just offload about the pains of being in lockdown and having families to handle with jobs and all the other things that we like to try and mix into this. I mean, back to the original intent of Make Life Work is, how do you find a good balance with all these three things? And I've noticed a massive shift in the last year to be more about well-being, family. I haven't got time. Us trying to organise this first recording has been a perfect example of how complicated it can be, because we're all dads. We're all trying to find time for our little side projects and keep us a main job. So I'm hoping this new format, we can actually talk about our pain points in a more public environment, but actually invite people along from the community and elsewhere to give us their stories as well.
That'd be great.
So that's the plan. We'll see what happens, because obviously plans never really happen. So I think with that in mind, what we're in, we're just starting February. Should we talk about some of the plans we had for this year and how they're going? So I'd love to hear how you're getting on with it, Mike, at the moment.
So my big plan this year is to have a second child.
That's pretty big.
Due in April. So yeah, it's kind of what's all encompassing our weekends and just general thoughts at the moment. And that's the kind of the goal. And it's just I suppose time where I would sometimes be doing side projects of my own is spent doing research or buying things. I mean, I still get a little bit of time to do some side projects. I'll talk about them in a second. But yeah, me and my wife are kind of at the moment making sure we've got things ready. So I suppose big side project of 2021 is to have a new family member.
Make a baby.
Yeah, that's quite a project.
Yeah.
Timely too.
So yeah, when you know, apart from that, I've currently got a side project that's in development that's a bit of a kind of RSS reader, but making it more accessible and like quick firing to have on your phone. Because the way I read RSS at the moment is I have an app and I feel like I have to read every article, and then when I'm sort of chilling on the sofa or something in the evening, I tend to scroll Twitter, which at the moment is not good, is it? It's not positive vibes there. So I'm kind of making an app that I can sort of sit and scroll like Twitter, but is actually RSS feeds. And it just sort of lets me click off quickly to articles, and I can just sort of scroll past the ones that don't interest me. So already I've got it in a bit of a prototype, but I really need to focus now on like UX and UI. And then hopefully in a few months' time, I'll be able to start getting people to sign up with potentially, obviously, side projects. You always have these sort of huge ideas of, it's going to make me multi-million pounds. But I did kind of think, if I charged £1 a month per user, like get 50 people, that's 50 quid a month coming in, kind of thing. You know, it's sort of a small scale kind of monetary revenue stream, I suppose, is the eventual plan, but it might just all go to pot. But that's my kind of, they're my 2021 plans.
Two good ones, eh?
Thanks. Sam, have you got anything in the pipeline?
Yeah, so I guess my sort of goal this year is to firstly finish the comic book that I'm already working on. That's been kind of, I think I started it the first time I spoke to you on the podcast, Si. When was that? October before last. So it's taken a long time. It's a long story of why it's taken so long to get to this point. But yeah, I'm kind of in the finishing stages of colouring the book at the minute. And it's only 16 pages, which is not a huge book, so it shouldn't be taking this long. But once that book's finished, I've got a couple of other ideas I want to work on. So my aim this year is to get at least 3 books out.
Ooh.
How I'm planning on doing that, I don't quite know yet, because I've not decided on whether to kickstart it or whether to just sort of self-fund a few print runs and just, you know, see what happens. Because obviously I don't really have much of an audience yet. But yeah, that's the plan for this year. If I can get 3 books out, then I'll have achieved my goal.
You heard it here first, guys. We're going to hold you accountable to that.
Yeah.
Are the 3 books? Are they a series, or are they going to be sort of 3 separate comics?
No, they're 3 separate books. So one, the book I'm working on now is the first part of a series, and the second book that I'm going to move on to next is it's a book that I did a couple of years ago. I drew the artwork for and then just did nothing with. So that one's a bit of a quick win, really. I just have to scan the artwork, clean it up, and, you know, do a cover and things like that. And then the third book, which I've not decided what the project's going to be yet, but I've got a few ideas for different stories that I need to sort of flesh out a little bit. But the book that I'm working on now, I do have an end-to-end script written, so I've got, you know, a draft of the full story arc. So I could potentially go on to moving on to, you know, working on that as well. So we'll just have to see. I mean, I guess the benefit of having, you know, side projects is I can chop and change and move around and, you know, do whatever I fancy, really. I'm not really beholden to anybody when it comes to which I work on next. So.
Well, you say that, but didn't you have a bit of an issue last year when you had like an editor lined up and publisher and all sorts of stuff?
Yeah. So that's why it's taken so long to get to this point, because around, I think it was around lockdown actually, when lockdown 1.0 kicked in around sort of April time. I was talking to a friend of mine who runs a small publisher, and he was seeing my work, and he said, "Do you want to, you know, put the book through us?" And yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm all for it. Let's go for it. And at that point, it was planned to be a sort of a 4 or 5 part series. And for commercial purposes, they sort of said, we'd like to put it out as a single book rather than individual issues, just because it's their plan was to get it into libraries and things like that. And obviously trade paperback books are easier to get into libraries than individual issues. So I kind of parked the artwork on issue 1 and then started writing the entire thing, which is why it's taken me so long to get to this point, because 6 months last year I was writing and doing rough pages. But then later last year, unfortunately, the publisher, it's only a small publisher run by, my mate Aaron and a few other people. They've unfortunately been hit by COVID and whatnot, and they had to close their doors. So it's kind of reverted back to me, doing it self-published. And that's when I decided to take it back to individual issues so that I can concentrate on getting, one bit done and then move on to something else as well, just so it keeps things fresh for me as well. Because I know for a fact that if I was doing this now, for the next year, I'd probably get a bit sick of working on the same thing. So it's good to have a bit of change.
Totally. I think that's the other advantage of having your own side projects, is that you are your own customer. And if you're not enjoying it, forget it. I want to enjoy this thing. This is my time, and I'm trying to relax and learn and enjoy things. If it's becoming a beast of a business, you're like, well, not sure it's the right for me.
What about your plans for this year, Si?
Me, blimey. One was to get this going again, because I think last year I did 4 seasons of it, and I loved it, but I got to the end of the year and I was burnt out, and I was like, I need to just take a break and re-energize and find a new focus. So when we started talking about this format, I was like, actually, this could work well to my strengths, I think, rather than just what I think should be the format. So yeah, the big one for me is to get this working again. I've got a few other mini projects that I'll keep running as well. So like you say, on the side is one of the communities that we were all part of. I don't want to grow it crazy, but I want to get more focus out of it and more content from it, I think. So see if there's any overlap with what we're doing with this. I've got the House Finesse podcast that I continue to run, which is more music float based. But Mike, you were mentioning about like the tech side of stuff, and my history was developing and a bit of design as well. And I want to go back to some of the roots I did with sports-based websites. I've got an idea in my mind of how I want that to work, but that's the other potential side project later in the year. I think we've got a lot of big sports and events coming up over the next year or so anyway. It's a good motivator to kind of work towards as well.
Hopefully.
But no children, no comics, just a lot more continuing what I've got going and trying to keep them alive, I think.
What was the developing you used to do, developing and designing?
So historically, I was a designer / developer anyway. This is how I met Sam originally, actually. So back in 2005 or so, I was front-end developer and a bit of a mixed hybrid back in the fire service, of all places. Set up a little community back then called the Multipack to kind of get the local Midlands people together talking about this sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's when I met Sam through that stuff. And then I went off and did it at ASOS, which is where I'm going back to again in a couple of months' time. So, roundabout way, it's just always been interested in front-end development, bit of back-end. I understand the semantics, but I'm by no means a quality engineer when it comes to back-end development. But I get it, and that's why I'm curious to just keep tapping into that little passion here and there.
And I suppose that's probably what's helped you in your sort of current roles, is the fact that you've got the technical background, being able to sort of talk to technical people.
It certainly helps, yeah. When I'm talking to an engineer and they talk to me about, test scripts and TDD, I'm like, yep, I know what you're on about. You're not talking to some project manager who's just like, well, when are you going to get it? When is it going to be done? For God's sake, slow down. Let's really understand what we're trying to solve here. They're my goals for the year.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I suppose one of the kind of ideas of this new format is that each of us is going to hopefully bring a question to the group for everyone to answer. I suppose Sai has already kind of done his, which is like targets for the year. So mine is, obviously this podcast was originally meant to be recorded in like early January. So the questions are a little bit kind of tenuous as to how we link them. But over sort of holidays and stuff, if you have a Christmas break or if you take time off over the sort of half terms or the summers, and you're sort of downing tools at work, do you take that as an opportunity to stop on your side projects, or is it more that you've got more mental capacity to deal with those, to do more on those side projects because you're not drained by your day-to-day work, and you might have time in the day to do those? So Sam, do you like draw more when you've got time off work, or do you draw less just because you sort of want to walk away from the screen, or what's your sort of deal?
Yeah, so I think it's quite an easy one for me. Well, easy one to some extent. I think when you say you've got more mental capacity to work on your projects, I think that's definitely the case, because you then don't have to worry about being in meetings and don't have to worry about work or anything like that. For me, the practical side of it is very similar to my usual day-to-day, really, just because I've got 2 young kids, and one of them is just over 1 year old. So is at that age where you can't really sort of have one eye doing one thing and let him play with his toys. You've got to sort of keep an eye on him pretty much all the time at the moment, because he's turned into a bit of a climber as well, which is fun. We didn't have that experience first time around. So for me, it's I might get a bit of time during the day. Like if the youngest goes off for a nap, I might get an hour or so just to do some work there, or sit and chill and watch a film is usually what actually happens, to be honest. So my on the side time usually happens later at night, sort of between 8 and 10, I guess. So that's generally when I do my comic work, just because I've got no children to look after then, because they're both asleep, and I can just sort of concentrate on my work. What about you, Si?
Yeah, that's a funny one, especially through the latest lockdown. So when we talked about, before lockdown, I'd travel into London every day from the Midlands. So it was a good hour and a half journey where I actually got quiet time to do my side projects. And I loved it. It was great. I could actually put my headphones on, zone in on whatever I was doing, whether it was podcasting, editing, or writing code, or whatever it was. It was great. Then lockdown came in and I struggled to fit it in, because obviously we've got our own commitments with family and stuff like that. Homeschooling wasn't really a big issue for us because I've got living grandparents. They took that burden off us, thank God. But literally today, they're really struggling with some of the maths that they had to do with my 8-year-old. She comes crying to the office. I was on a call with work. He was like, I can't do it. Granddad doesn't get this division process. Wow. Bear with me, guys. And that's the situation you're working with a lot. I think we're both destined to this. So trying to find the time for side projects has been really difficult. But I've been like you, Sam, wait till everyone's gone to bed. I'll have that family time after work. I'll have some dinner time, do some chores, sit and watch TV and all that sort of nice stuff. And then sort of 7:30, I'll put the little one to bed and give her a story. Then I can come down with my laptop and do anything that I want to do. But I'm also mindful that I can't do this every night. I'm not young, like in my 20s when I could do this virtually till 3 to 1 in the morning. I'm in my 40s now, man, and I'm an old git. I'm there in my comfies in bedtime, So what I've started to do recently actually is keep a time journal of how much time I'm using on work, family, chores, and side projects, and it's quite interesting to see the split of that and making sure I'm actually giving myself some rest and respite. I think I mentioned it to you at one point, Sam, and you went, "Don't forget the value of TV time. It might seem gormless, useless entertainment, but your brain is resetting and it's processing differently, right?" So I don't think there's any silver bullet on this, but I'm just very conscious of, one, my energy levels and capacity, and two, am I doing it for the right reasons? It's just very difficult to find that right balance at the moment, I think. How about you, Mike? Because obviously you've got a lot of new changes coming soon.
Yeah. So generally, it's very similar to you two. Is like if it's a working day, I'll tend to use the evenings for the side projects and stuff. Me and my wife currently take it in turns to put my little one to bed. So every other night, I get a sort of after dinner time. It's then kind of like my own time. And that's normally where side projects get picked up. So every other day, basically, I sort of get at least an hour or so to work on my side projects. And then we've kind of got this unwritten rule that come 9 o'clock, we both sort of put down our devices or put down whatever we're looking at and then watch something, be it a film or a TV program. And then over the sort of holidays, obviously, if the world was normal on a holiday, I'd be on holiday, so I wouldn't have my laptop or whatever. But certainly over Christmas, during the sort of daytime nap hour or so, if there wasn't anything that needed doing around the house, then I would pick up my laptop and do a little bit more on the side projects here and there. And I just sort of a bit more, a few more ideas through my head. But then again, sitting at my desk at work, I come up with, I'm thinking about my side projects anyway and making notes. So it swings and roundabouts really, because sometimes if I'm on holiday, I'll come to it with fresh eyes. But if I've been sitting there working, thinking about code anyway, it kind of naturally just flows into the side project, and they both sort of benefit each other. Like there's been points where I've been working on a side project and actually implemented something at work that I've found. So if I'm on a break, those things sometimes fall between the cracks. So
I've just realised that we've been in lockdown for too long now, because when I think about holidays, my default position is I'm just not working. I'm still at home, but just not working.
Yeah, do you remember those times where we used to leave the house and see people? Like,
I know.
It's an alien concept to me. But yeah, I mean, we've got the February break coming up, right, with half terms. I know you both. Well, I think we're both all in the same boat. And I've booked in 2 days just to have time off with the kids. And we won't do anything. We'll probably just sit and watch TV, or they'll stay in their pajamas most of the day, which is the worst part. As you say, just having that quiet time, you need it, man. It's time to reset. And if I will have a bit of boredom in the day, I'll go, well, actually, I might pick up my laptop and start doing a bit of code or whatever it is, a bit of editing or something like that. It's a difficult one to get right.
I've taken some occasional days off here and there since New Year anyway, just because every time it snows really bad, our youngest son's nursery closes, and it's just like there's absolutely no way we can both work whilst looking after a 1-year-old. So because my schedule is a lot more flexible, it's a lot easier for me to sort of take the odd day off and whatnot. So for next week, when our eldest is on half term, I think he's going to be probably seeing my mum quite a lot, because we're in a childcare bubble with her. So she'll probably come down and watch films with him and things like that. But for the most part, he'll probably just, like your kids' side, just play on devices and whatnot as much as he can.
You're up north and get proper snow as well, don't you? Like none of this sort of half a day stuff we get on the south coast.
Yeah, I think it's probably. I think people in Scotland probably argue that what we get is not anything to worry about. But yeah, we get enough that where we live, at least, we live on a hill. So if the gritters haven't been around, we literally get stuck for a couple of days, which has been the case for the last couple of weeks, really, on and off. Which it's a bit of a nightmare, but hey ho.
Amazing sledging opportunities if you're on a hill.
Yeah, well, I mean, I tried taking him out last week, but the problem is the youngest, he's not worked out how to walk properly in wellies yet. So I had to carry him up to where we were going sledging, and by the time we got there, he was just absolutely sick of me carrying him and just didn't want to do anything except scream. So it kind of ruined the fun, really.
Yeah, this is normal though, right?
Yeah. I see Mike sort of going, what have I done? What have we done?
Is it too late?
We need to add a second one into the mix. But so sort of related to that question, in terms of what you do with your time when you get on holidays, or when you do have a holiday rather. When you come out of holiday, what do you do to sort of get back into the swing of things with your side projects and whatnot, when you sort of get back into that daily routine of Monday to Friday working and all that kind of stuff? How about you, Mike?
Like to plug the community again, I think actually this is where kind of on the side does help, because I found after the Christmas break, the kind of general chatter of people starting to get working on their side projects again got me sort of excited, and this is where the idea for the RSS kind of came from, and that's where the energy for me to start developing it came from as well, because I wanted something to start sharing. I wanted to be able to get feedback from the people on the side community. So they're a big help. And also I kind of tend to go in phases. So sometimes I won't look at my laptop for a month or so in the evenings and just play PlayStation. Whereas recently, pretty much since the new year, I've used my free time in the evenings, as it were, to work on side projects and write blog posts and stuff. Whereas I suspect I can feel it coming that I'll get to a tipping point where I'll just be like, no, I don't want to look at any more code for a bit, play a bit of PlayStation, and then get bored of a game and go back to that cycle. Si, how do you get the energy? Because you always seem to have something on the go.
I do. Before I go into my point, I just want to go back to one of yours there. You were saying about it's around getting back into it.
Yeah.
And that hard part, right? You've had a break, you need the time out. And that was it, you're gaming. So you obviously are a gamer, and your PlayStation probably sits there gathering dust while you're on your PC or your laptop or whatever. Do you feel guilty though if you're gaming and thinking this should be Mac time, or vice versa?
No, because I apologize to the person who originally said this, but I saw one of the good things that came out of looking on Twitter was someone said, it was something like, if you're wasting time and you're enjoying yourself, it's not wasted time. And like, if I'm sitting on my PlayStation, I think, I could be writing that code. I'm like, no, I'm having fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm unwinding. It's not a waste because I'm having fun, basically. And that's just always in the back of my mind whenever I'm doing something. It's like, am I enjoying it? Carry on. Don't feel guilty.
It's funny though, because my son's a gamer, and I'm constantly saying, do something productive with your time, because he was literally spending a whole weekend like sitting, watching, playing Star Wars, or whatever it is he does. But then last week he streamed a video onto Twitch, wherever it was, downloaded it and started editing the crap out of it, putting like subtitles and memes all over it. And then he showed me the video at the weekend. I thought, this is more like what I used to do in my teenage years. And I'm glad he's finally getting the buzz of doing that. But you are right. Those moments of inspiration come to you during that downtime as well. You'll sit there gaming away and you'll go, that's how I want to fix that bloody connection problem I've got, or wherever it is, the build pipeline. And you're like, yeah. So the downtime helps in a lot of senses. And I find exercise is the other thing, getting away from a screen completely, running around, cycling around, whatever you're doing, but just having something away from the screen, your moment would just go, oh yeah, I know what to do now, or that's how I want to solve that problem.
I've solved many things when I used to commute to and from work, because it was a 40-minute cycle ride, and I'd leave work with a bug or a problem or something and be cycling home and just not even be thinking about it, and then something will just click in the back of my mind, and it's I'd have to get home and solve it straight away, or make a note or text myself or something like that, just because otherwise I'd forget.
That's the hard part, and using like Siri or whatever to send yourself a reminder rather than taking your hands off the handlebars and falling off the bike.
I don't have that. So there would be points where I'd think about something, and then all I'd do would make a song or something out of it, or just repeat it until I got to a location so that I could just remember what it was.
You got that earworm in your head when you get home going, I've got the solution. Exactly. It's still in my head. Annoyingly. So Jesus, where are we going to go with this one? You were asking me, weren't you?
It was how you get back into the flow of side projects.
I think you both alluded to this, and I think the community is the big part for me. And that's why I set it up in the first place. I needed somewhere to go to keep me motivated. We all have highs and lows through this, especially when you've got families and other demands outside of side projects. After Christmas, funnily enough, I think over Christmas I had a load of ideas. I wasn't doing anything, but I had all these ideas coming through, like, I could build this, I could make that, I wanted to get into this community, blah, blah, blah. Coming back in the new year, you actually got that fresh energy anyway. I think a lot of people go, right, New Year's resolution, I'm going to be more proactive in that thing, or do this instead. I hate that. But I do like the annual goals of, right, I want to achieve this, hence the original question. So I think giving yourself a few realistic goals that you can kind of chip away at, long-term, short-term, medium-term. I mean, I love the way Sam's going, right, this year, 3 books, but I'll finish the first one in a couple of weeks' time or months or whatever it is, and then I've got another one that's going to come in really easily. I think breaking it down is also helpful. I think like your RSS app, Mike, I had a very similar idea about this a few years ago, and I think I shared my notes with you. treating it like a social network rather than just an RSS reader. So seeing you do that, come up with that idea, and then just having that conversation going, well, what do you mean by this? And how is this going to work with the real people, not just the geeks? And, just getting that conversation flowing, because that helps everyone be a bit more, enthusiastic and productive in their time. But then also having that capacity to go, yo, stop working. We've got one character in our community and he's never stopped. He's up till midnight doing all sorts of stuff and waking up first thing in the morning. Mate, you've got a child. How do you find the time to do this stuff? I can't. And I'm sure you're older than me, but I'm not sure. It's each to their own. But I think, going back to your point, I just like the community aspect of what we do. And I like having people to chat ideas out and kind of go, look, I've made this. What do you think? Or I'm really struggling with this part. What do you reckon? That helps alleviate a lot of the challenges we get when we get into these weird lulls of side projects as well.
And actually seeing Mark publish however many blog posts he's publishing in what was it, 60 posts in 60 days or something? I don't know.
I think it was originally 30 in 30 days, wasn't it?
Was it? But he's still going, yeah. Seeing him write blog posts has actually inspired me to write blog posts. And I think I've written more in the last month or something than I have done in most of last year. So, it's again, something else that community brings is kind of like, well, if he's doing it, maybe I should do it kind of mentality, even though there's no one.
Do you feel like it's a
blaming.
Competition though, or is it just motivation?
No, it's motivation and more, I suppose maybe envy, jealousy kind of thing. It's like, now
we're getting deep.
I've got a blog. Why aren't I publishing blog posts? If he's doing it and he's doing it every day, I can at least manage one a week or one every 2 weeks kind of thing. So it's.
What about you, Sam? Because I know you struggle to find the time sometimes, don't you?
What, with blogging? For definite.
Well, with your drawing. So I'll see your burst occasionally on your Instagrams, and you go, "Oh, actually, I've got a few things I've been working on." I mean, how do you get back into that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't post to Instagram all the time, and I think that sort of helps to some degree because I don't have that pressure that I need to post something every day or post really regularly to Instagram. I just sort of do it as and when. But what it also doesn't show is that I do work on it every day. So I think that's why, going back to the first question about holidays and things like that, and also feeding into this one, it doesn't really change for me just because I have for my side projects, I have a sort of a daily habit set up in TickTick, which is just, it literally says work on comics. And that to me can be anything. So if I've got loads of time, I'll sit and spend a couple of hours doing something. Whereas if there's a day where I don't have much time or I'm not really in the mood, I'll allow myself to do like the bare minimum. And my sort of thought process is, as long as it's kind of contributing towards that end goal, that still counts as, working on the comic. So in some cases it might be, I'll just ink a really small panel that takes me, 5 minutes to do. But regardless, when I come back tomorrow, when I've got more energy, that's one less thing I've got to do. It's
a nice way of doing it. Last year you were doing some live streams of it as well, weren't you? How did you find that help you motivate you in any way?
I guess I don't think it helps with motivation, to be honest. It's more just out of sort of similar sort of thing to this. It's about the community and just having people to chat to and things like that. So I've got a couple of people on my Twitter stream or my Instagram stream that will join as soon as I start going live, and they'll sit and have a chat and ask questions and things like that. So it's a bit more about that whilst I'm drawing. So if I'm sat down here in the office and it's 9 o'clock, it's a very solitary thing to do. So you can either sit and listen to music or podcasts or whatever, or you can live stream. And people who follow you on Instagram, if you like me, you've got an art account, it's safe to assume that they're interested in what you do. So they, by definition, they might also be interested in how you go about doing it. So live streaming allows you to do that, allows you to sort of draw back the curtain and show people how you go about working on your artwork.
I mean, that final part, I think, is a topic for another day. The thought process and opening the curtains to how everyone works. I think this might be a good question for a future episode.
Yeah.
But I think, doing that a lot of people are nervous about doing this, and I see this with a lot of engineers that I work with. Why don't you share your code? Oh God, no! Ooh, I don't know for criticism. Like, there's a thing called open source and GitHub, which is one of the most popular platforms for coding on. But just having the confidence to let people do that is a massive, massive step, I think, as well. I don't know if you guys find that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think again from my perspective, I look at it. Most of all my on the side stuff is art based, and that ties into Instagram and things like that. And I personally enjoy seeing artists when they post, rough work stuff that's in progress, because everybody has this level of imposter syndrome, and especially with artists. You talk to any artist, and they all think that they're not as good as they should be, and that person's better, that person's doing really good work all the time. And I think if you have an artist or anybody really, I guess it's more of a general issue of always posting the really glossy top level content, it gives this false sense of reality, I suppose. Like a lot of Instagram influencers and things are kind of guilty of this. Not that I follow any of them anyway, but they give this this impression that this life that they're leading is absolutely flawless and whatnot, and obviously it's not. That's not the case. So I like it when you see an artist post a scribble, and then later on you see they post the actual finished artwork, and you can kind of see the stages they've gone through to get to that point.
That's what I love about watching you draw. I like to see your thought process and how you get to that final point. In fact, I think I prefer the work in progress to the actual final product sometimes.
I do quite often.
Yeah, that's great. But how you got there, that's the fascinating part. The way you do the inking and stuff like that when we're watching you just live stream, it's fascinating. Mike, have you ever done any sort of live coding sessions or like that? Because I know some of our other community members have done it before.
I've thought about it, but I've never done it. Mainly because I kind of work in weird. I work in a weird way with my side projects, and obviously, like sometimes I might open my laptop, start coding, and then something might happen at home, and I have to walk away, kind of thing. So it's quite difficult. And also, I don't think I've got the audience at the moment, or whether I ever have it to kind of do it in a justifiable way, because it takes a lot of time and effort, and if it's only for two people watching it, then it's kind of seems to me a little bit of a time versus result thing, which doesn't quite balance out. So
yeah, sorry, go on.
I was going to say I personally don't watch coding streams because I find them quite tedious sometimes, but I prefer I prefer to sort of scan finished result code kind of thing. So it's just, I think it's one of those things that because I wouldn't be the audience, it's hard for me to make it.
Yeah, I think if you're using something like Twitch where there is a bit of setup involved. I mean, I've considered it myself because a lot of artists are jumping on Twitch now, but again, I've got the same thing of thinking, is it really going to be worth it for two people? Whereas with Instagram, you just pull your phone out and, within 2 seconds, you're going live. Mm-hmm. So I think I'll probably just stick with Instagram for the time being until I've got more of an audience.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, going back to the original point, is how to get motivated again. This was just one way of looking at it. And I think I love the idea of the work in progress, openness. But the effort to do that sometimes is so complicated. I mean, I think going back to one of the things I talked about earlier when I was doing my original deving, I found an old recording of my screen recording of doing one little feature I made. And there was no audio narration. It was just literally me typing code and jumping around and looking things up. So it was fascinating for me to see back how I worked, but no one else would care about that at all. It's just more, I don't know, nice to see how I worked back then. I wouldn't do it at all now. So I think we've kind of covered that topic quite well. And that probably concludes the main conversations for this week, actually. What I'd like to do, I don't know about you guys, but I think it'd be nice to get some audience participation somehow.
That'd be great.
And I've got a batch of stickers as well that we can give away. I've got some Make Life Work ones. I've got some on the side stickers. And I'm quite happy to give them away, but But Sam, you had an interesting idea of how we could do this, didn't you? You saw it somewhere else.
Yeah. Where did I see it? Oh, it was another podcast that I listened to. It's a comics podcast, and I think it was during December. Yeah, was it December? Yeah. Basically, they did like a charity drive where they had a bunch of their podcast badges, and they basically said, donate to any charity you want, any amount that you want. I think they said over £5 or something like that. Send us proof that you've done it, and we'll send you a badge. And they raised a fair bit of money. It's only a small podcast, but I think they raised, a fair bit for that. I think they had a charity in mind, so they were focusing on the figure for that charity in particular. But I think people were donating to any charity they felt like, really.
I think it's a lovely idea, to be honest, because I think we're all in it at the moment, struggling through lockdown as well. We've all got our own goals and motives and whatever, but great idea. And I'm quite happy to just send out stickers to anyone that wants to make a charitable donation to their favoured. Yeah. Let us know.
If I can make a suggestion.
Go on. Who are you thinking of?
So the publisher that I was working with last year, they also run a charity, and it's called Little Heroes Comics. And what they do is they develop comic making kits, which they then send to children's wards. So kids who are stuck in hospital, having whatever treatment they're having, it comes with all sorts of stuff like paper and pens and instructional guides and all sorts of stuff, and it's really good. And they're a small charity, so they're really keen to get as much money as they can get.
So Little Heroes Comics, we'll put the details in the show notes, and anyone can actually contribute to that. The only one that comes to mind for me is Mind. It's always literally on my mind. Mental health has been a massive, massive thing this year, and I think any contributions to that community and charity would be phenomenal, quite frankly. I've always done my own little fundraisers myself, so I'll make them my preferred. But like you, I don't mind. I think if anyone wants to give to any charity and just send us who it's sent to, we'll get some stickers in the post. So actually, I guess that lends quite well into wrapping up and how to get in hold of us. Should we do individuals and I'll do the generics?
Yeah.
Go on, Mike. How can we get hold of you?
I am Mike Streety on pretty much every social network you can think about. And mikestreety.co.uk is my website. And one side project I forgot to mention was my beer review Instagram account, which I'm sure we'll cover in later episodes. But that is ale_house_rock on Instagram.
With the fingers rock. Very good. So that's Mike Streety with a Y.
With a Y on the end, yes.
Yeah, got it. Sam, how about you?
So I'm known most places as Nocturnal Monkey. And my art stuff is Skinny Drawn Boy. So that's Twitter, Instagram. Those are the only places, really. Yeah. That's where you'll find me.
And I can be contacted as @SideJoblin on most social networks, but @Si on Twitter if anyone wants to reach out on there.
How did you get such a premium Twitter handle?
I mean, we're going back. This is going to show my age. I joined Twitter as it was pretty much launched,
right?
And I managed to grab it then.
Wow!
Basically. I think I'm number 11,000. Weirdly, it seems quite large, but when you look at the grand scheme of their accounts, it's quite small.
Yeah. I think I'm 50,000 and something. Then my Nocturnal Monkey one is I joined in December 2006, which is quite depressing, really, when you think about it.
I think you were just the month after me, then, weren't you?
Yeah,
so it was November time, I think.
Yeah, you were the first person I followed on Twitter.
Wow.
So it's probably your fault I'm on there, to be honest. So.
That's where it came from.
Yeah.
I can't get shaken since.
I'll have read a blog post from you somewhere saying, I've just joined this thing called Twitter, go follow me. And I'll go, no, I'll do that.
Well, that's probably the old blog that doesn't even last anymore. And then if you want to get hold of us together, we have got @MakeLifeWorkPod for all the socials. That's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We've got a Patreon. We've got a few other things on there. Or if you just want to email us, we've got makelifeworkpodcast@gmail.com as well. Send us your contributions and donations, any questions you might want to throw over to us. And if you want to join us on the podcast, let us know. We will reach out and see what we can sort out. And if you want to speak to all of us in the same space, we are obviously on the Side Slack community. ontheside.network takes you straight in. You can join the registration and catch us in the general channel, and then we can point you in the right direction to make things interesting for you, hopefully, and help you with your side projects. Anything else from you guys?
Not that I can think of.
So.
That's bye from me.
I suppose a bye from me.
And me. See you later.
Glad you're all on the other side.
See you later.